Hello and welcome to this video talking about Foobar2000. This is an update of a video, a series that I've got on my channel, which has been quite popular. One of the most popular things I've done, actually. So I hope this video will be useful, particularly if you want to use an updated version of Foobar. So this video is all about the 64-bit version of Foobar2000. One of the important things to say is the list of components that you can install that sort of extend the capabilities of Foobar2000 has different lists between the 32-bit version and the 64-bit version. So there are some differences. Some of the components are the same and some are different. So the one in particular that I'm going to be demonstrating and talking about today is a component called ColumnsUI, which is a way of extending the user interface. You can see there's the classic user interface is also available, but let's focus on the ColumnsUI first of all for this video. So that's a component that you need to have installed. Okay, so let's just go into Foobar2000 and talk about ColumnsUI for a second, because there are some simple things that you can do to set up different user interfaces. If you go to File and then Preferences, if you've installed ColumnsUI, then you'll see a ColumnsUI configuration screen, and there is a Setup tab, and there are all these other tabs, but let's focus on Setup. And if you choose Quick Setup, that's a very quick way of seeing the different layouts available in ColumnsUI by default. So you can get an idea. So if you just scroll down, if you just click on one of those, you get an idea in the background of what it will look like. So I'm just going to try a few of these out. Just scrolling down this list, really. Okay, so let's just pick one of those, and then this gives you an idea of what the screen will look like once you've chosen a layout. So with ColumnsUI, let's talk about the language used, because I think that's important. So I've got a drawing tool here on the screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and explain my understanding of how ColumnsUI sees the interface. So everything is based on containers. So let's try and add a container to the screen. So the first container, if you like, is the whole screen. Unfortunately, I think when you start from scratch, ColumnsUI gives you the choice, and instead of calling it a container, it calls it a panel, which is a bit confusing. So let's say this container, it's one thing, it's one whole thing, filling the whole screen, and you can either view it as you could either see this as a column, or you could see it as a row. It doesn't really matter what you call it, because we're going to be creating containers within this one. So let's imagine this is our first container. Now, what do we want on the screen? Well, let's have a look at something I've drawn to illustrate what a possible layout might look like. Okay, so this is an example layout. I've put some boxes on the screen representing different panels. And these are called panels in these individual boxes will be called panels. But as you can see, I've got, if you like, all of these panels fit into 3 columns. There's column 1, column 2, which is this fat column in the middle, and column 3 on the right hand side. So in our row or our column, whatever we call it, what we would do in ColumnsUI is create three columns. We would have a column here on the left. We would have a fat column in the center of the screen, and we would also have a column over here on the right hand side. So you can see that the screen here is made up of three containers, and in each of these containers we can have some panels. So I'm just going to use the rounded rectangle to create a panel. Let's imagine that's a panel. So our first panel might be album artwork. Next panel might be a list of, let's say, a list of albums. And we might want to have, let's say, track details at the bottom here. Okay, so we've got three panels, and as you can see, they are falling on top of each other. We've got one column and we've got three things in it. Okay, now if we had called that a row, I'm not sure it would look any different to that, but yeah, I'm not entirely clear on everything here, but let's say it would appear like this. In our center, what we would want is something that are called filters. So let's have actually let's have a search box first of all. We'll have a search box there, search box, and then we'll have some filters. Now, because this is a column, what we might want to do is, because what I'm thinking of is having some way of having three filter panels. So what we might need to do in Foobar is create three rows within this center column. So let me explain that. So I'm going to draw these three rows, and then that it'll hopefully make some sense. So I'm going to have a narrow row at the top, and in that row I'm going to put a panel called the search box. Then I'm going to have a sort of bigger panel in the second row, and in here I'm going to put three filters. Let's just create another one of those. So I'm going to have the filters I'm going to create are artist, type, album, and genre. Okay, and then in our third row, I'm going to have the playlist view. Let's keep it fairly simple, playlist view. And then over here, I'm going to have in this final column, I'm just going to, rather like the first column, I'm just going to have two panels. I'm going to have the lyrics. No, I'm going to have an EQ, I think, there. And over here, I'm going to have lyrics. Okay, so as you can see, I'm thinking about the containers that I'm going to have. And I'm going to color these containers in if I can. Let's try and do that. It's coloring the line, isn't it? Not the fill line. Okay, there we go. Fill. Oops. Right. So that's column 1. And then in column 2, I'm inserting rows. I've got 3 rows in column 2. So this is column 2. Let's just try this. Yeah, I think I can do it this way. Column 2, I'm going to go make that green. That's column 2, and the 3 rows are here. So this is row 1, This is row 2, and this is row 3. Did I? Yeah, row 3. And over here, this is column 3. Okay, there you go. That color. Okay, so we've got 3 columns, 3 panels in the first column, 2 panels, sorry, in the third column, and in the second column, I've got some rows and then panels within the rows. Let's try and make some sense of this in Foobar2000 next. Okay, so this button here is for live editing, so it's on when it's darker and it's off when it's the same color as everything else in that panel. So I'm going to turn it on. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to remove this default what do you call it, UI components. I'm going to remove them all. You can do it individually if you wanted to. Just click on if you right click each of the little panels, you can then say, you can then kind of remove them all, or you can edit the parent, and then remove. And say, do you want to remove the root panel? And in this case, we do. So we've gone back to a blank UI at the moment. So to add a component, you can right click and choose the type of container that you want. And you remember when I said we have three columns in this design. I said you can either call it a row or a column. Let's call it a row. And we're going to add a child container, and we're going to have 3 columns. So that's column 1, add child container, column 2, right click again, add child container, column 3. So we've got 3 columns, and if I right click, I should be seeing 3 columns, but I'm not. So you can see a different view. I find it actually helpful, more helpful in fact, to actually do this setup in the preferences screen. So if you go to File and Preferences, and over here on the left, you see that there's a layout option. So what you can see there is that it's kind of a nested view of these columns. So actually what I've done is I've created a column container as a child of each other, when actually what I wanted to do was create 3 sort of sibling columns within the row. So this is why this view is quite helpful. So what I want is 3 siblings, not 3 children. So how can I change this to give me what I want? Well, I can either I can only remove them, I think, at this point. I've just made that mistake. So yeah, what I did in effect was create a column, and then I added a child, and then I went to column, which isn't what I want. So let me remove that. So what I want to do is actually, if I go back to the parent row and then add a child of that and a column there, you see that now it's a sibling. It's not a child of that. So if I then click apply and then right click, you can see the effect of that. So that's 3 columns. That's what I want. I wouldn't have seen that very easily. It doesn't show you on this screen borders of these components, of these sort of screen UI partitions, and it would be very helpful if it did, but it doesn't. So let's go back here into the preferences view and layout. So I find this hierarchical view quite helpful. So in my first column, I wanted to create a couple of panels, didn't I? So as you can see, I can add child panel, I wanted to create an artwork view, and then I also wanted to create a album list, I think I said. Okay, so that's my first column. In my third column, what I wanted to do was create an EQ panel, and I also wanted a lyric show panel. So that's another component that I've actually downloaded and installed. So that's my first column and my last column sorted out. Now, at the moment, you can't see them in this on the screen. So I click apply, and then they should become visible. Okay, so that's cool, but I haven't got anything in that middle column. And actually, just worth saying that while you're in this view, you can move these things around. So in my head, I've got this kind of column that's fatter in the middle than it is than the other two on the edge. And in my head, I've also got the album artwork in a more of a square shape. So I'm just dragging these around just so they resemble what I had in mind. And then I'm going to go back to preferences. Let's sort this middle column out. Now, I said, if you remember me talking about rows within this column, so I'm going to try and do that. I'm going to add a child container row. And within that row, I'm going to add. Actually, I'm not quite sure whether I need to add columns here or not. Let me try and explain what I'm trying to do. So I'm going to remove that row. I'm going to add some panels. I'm going to add 3 filter panels. The reason why I'm adding 3 filters is because the filters only appear in that I want will only appear in the same panel. If I created a different column for each filter, I wouldn't see 3 different filters. If you see there's a filters option, if I look at that, the 3 filters I'm talking about are genre, artist, and album. I think I'll move them around actually. I'll move that one down. So that's third. So we start with album, artist, and then album, and then genre. So these are the filters. And in my layout, I want to have those sort of in the same column, close to each other. So if I click apply, we'll have a look at what that looks like. Okay, so that's not what I want. I want them side by side and they're on top of each other. So I'm going to go to my preferences and I'm going to try and adjust this. So within the column, what I'm going to do is create a I wonder if I could create 3 columns. There could be different ways of doing this. Three columns there. And yeah, so let me move down. Move down. Move down. Do I want to move it down? Or I want it to be a child in that column. Let me take these out and then add them as children of that. Gosh, this is confusing, isn't it? So in this middle column, I've got 3 columns. Well, actually, what I want to do first of all is create a search panel. Where's search? Quick search toolbar. Right, I'm going to move that up. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. Then I'm going to have, so if you like, that's going to be a row on its own. And then I'm going to have 3 columns. Now the first, no, that's not what I want. Well, let's try this. This won't work, but I'll do it as an illustration of why it doesn't work. So panel filter, child panel filter, child panel filter. Okay, let's let's see what that looks like. Yeah. So as you can see, they all say artist, and there isn't a way of changing that. That's not what I want. So let's have a look at this. So actually, what I think I have done wrong here is I've separated these filters. Let me remove them and let me add them to this column. Right. So apply. Let's see what that looks like. Okay. So not what I want. I want them side by side. So what I'm going to have to do is create a row. So this one, I'm going to container type. I'm going to change to a row and apply. And now that's what I want. So that's what I want. So I also want something underneath that. So I can remove these now. These aren't needed. So, but I want so there's a space underneath not being utilized at the moment. So what I want to do is to add a couple of extra panels in this third column. So I want to go to panels. I want the playlist view. Sorry, so that's playlist view. And I also want to add a visualization. I want, let's try spectrum and then apply. Okay, and now I can drag these around a bit to reflect where I would like things to be. So it's looking pretty close to what I had in mind, actually. So let's make sure that that's on 0 so I don't get any copyright strikes. Let's choose a track and play that. Okay, so that's my layout. I can click the live layout editing, and then that so that means I shouldn't be able to. I can still drag it around, but I shouldn't be able to delete anything. Yeah. So if I right click, I don't get the options I would get normally. So yeah, so there you go. That's the ColumnsUI layout editing and how you would go about it. I hope my explanation of the columns and the rows and everything makes some sense to you, and that you can now get on and create some wonderful layouts. There's lots more to learn. Foobar2000 is very configurable, and I'm just dabbling, so I'm sure there's lots more options. As you can see, if you go to the preferences, just something to mention here on the main sort of setup, you can also you could see status bar. So if I show status bar, you also get this helpful line at the bottom. It tells you what the time on your current track, what format it is, what kilobits per second it is, and so on, the bit rate. And you can also, if you wanted to enable a status pane, you can also see the status pane at the bottom of the screen. I actually think that's helpful myself, so I'm going to leave that on. But yeah, you can do pretty much whatever you like really with the interface. There's also this sort of quick search toolbox is another. Sorry, a quick search toolbar is another tool that if you click on the magnifying glass, you get these extra options. So as well as just being a search box, it's also quite helpful that you can actually base a playlist off of your search. So yeah, so it's very functional. And yeah, I'll stop there. But as you can see, you can do quite a lot with the interface editor in Foobar 2000. I think it's brilliant. Okay, thanks for watching.